Meanwhile, the Trump campaign is beefing up efforts to win over African-American voters. It could be a challenge, though. An average of 4 recent national polls finds Mr. Trump with the support of 2% of African-American voters. Let's bring in Sean Jackson, chairman of the Florida Black Republican Caucus, and Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com, journalism professor at Morgan State University, and a contributor for SiriusXM Radio. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Jason, if I can begin with you, Trump's polling lower than most GOP nominees among African Americans, in fact, all of the most recent ones. Is there any one issue that is driving that?
Yes, it's Trump himself. I mean, look, there are many, many African-American Republicans and African-American conservatives that are out there that have been committed to the Republican Party, and he has alienated them. He has alienated them with his comments about Muslims. Remember, 20% of American Muslims are African-American. He has alienated them with his comments saying, my favorite African-Americans over here. He has done lots of things to turn off those African-American voters, and that's why his numbers are so low. And I don't know if with 90 days left in the campaign that he can go from 0% in Ohio and Pennsylvania to the 10 to 15% he needs to be competitive in those states.
Sean, in May, you told the Daily Beast, quote, the Republican National Committee does not have a vested interest in Black America. But you also said that Trump is addressing issues important to the African-American community. I'm curious to get your thoughts on how does that translate into votes, and what specifically is he addressing that is appealing to the African-American community as opposed to just the general community at large?
Well, first and foremost, I would have to completely disagree with what the gentleman just spoke on. Mr. Trump has not done or said anything, for that matter, to alienate African-American support. Mr. Trump has been quite clear and has remained on message that he wants to do everything humanly possible to support, promote, protect, defend, and rebuild the Black community, inner-city community.
How so? What specifics?
And that comes very simply from his economic policy plan, where he wants to lower taxes, where he wants to make child care 100% tax deductible. Those two things in itself would help Black families across the country wholeheartedly. There are several other things as well, but you have to understand too that Mr. Trump has never said one racist thing or one derogatory thing, I should say, as it pertains to Black America. Okay, so all of a sudden,
Sean, I'm going to give Jason a chance to respond to that, but I do want to ask you one point. In so much as about economic policies and some of the things that Donald Trump is specifically saying, what about the issues that he's not addressing? Maybe some issues of racial justice and criminal justice reform. He has not talked about those issues on the campaign trail, and those are issues that matter to the African-American community, no?
And that's not true, because Mr. Trump has very clearly stated, and Mr. Trump just recently put out a video after the last shootings in Louisiana and in Minnesota, where he says that he wants to make America safe again. How do you make America safe again? By making sure that you provide the tools and the resources to law enforcement necessary to help them implement community policing across the country, and so they can have more of a broader ability and capability of protecting residents within their respective municipalities and communities.
All right, Jason,
he wants to do that not just for Black Americans. He wants to do that for all Americans.
Are losing.
Sorry, Sean, hold on one second. Go ahead, Jason. Jason, go ahead.
This is why the Republicans are losing, because they're not paying attention to their actual candidate. Look, Bob Dole got 10%. Chris Christie got 25% of the Black vote in New Jersey. It's not like there aren't African American. I mean, John Casey. It's not like there aren't Black voters that vote for Republicans. The problem is Donald Trump has associated himself with the Ku Klux Klan. Donald Trump has said hostile things about Black Lives Matter.
Because this is the problem.
Hold on, guys, 1 second. Jason, go ahead. Finish your point, please.
He has consistently said things that have alienated the Black community, and rather than addressing those things and saying, let's reach out to those Black Republicans and tell them there's still a space for them, they're treated as if somehow Black people haven't been hearing what he's been saying for the last year and a half.
Hillary Clinton has called Black men super predators, okay? Hillary Clinton has worked with her husband, Bill Clinton, and created...
And she's not doing well with Black voters
excuse me,
either.
this is my time to talk. Excuse me.
You interrupted
and not
me
only has
before.
she, excuse me, Hillary Clinton has also worked with her husband to ensure that she has incarcerated more Black men than any other law in the history of this nation, to the point where the federal government is having to build, to the point where the federal government is having to build prisons per the capita of how many Black boys are in 3rd grade.
Okay,
so don't tell me this because it was 20 years ago that all of a sudden Hillary Clinton is no longer being held accountable for her actions. Mr. Trump has never said or done one negative thing towards Black Americans. America.
Sean, let me ask you this then. How do you explain, as a Republican, how do you explain that Donald Trump is only averaging, and again, 4 recent national polls, only 2% among African Americans? How do you explain that? What's the reason behind that?
There was no other reason other than the fact that the Democrats and the liberal media have done their darndest, and they have done a very good job thus far as picturing Mr. Trump, portraying him to be a racist and a bigot, something that he is not.
But
okay,
it's not his actions, or it's not his
Trump.
words?
No. If we're talking about Black America, we're not talking about Muslim America, or we're not talking about Hispanic America, but if we're talking about Black America, Mr. Trump has never said or done one derogatory thing to turn off anyone in the Black community. However, what the media and the liberals have done a very good job of doing is insinuating and lying, blatantly lying, stating that Mr. Trump is going to send Blacks back to Africa, which that's absurd to begin with. There's no way you can
Jason,
I just wrote a piece for The Root on Friday called GOP Hires a Black Suicide Squad. Ashley Bell, Telly Lovelace, the guys working at the RNC, these are great, loyal African-American Republicans who have been out there doing serious work, and their job is being made more difficult because the top of the ticket continues to interact with Ku Klux Klan members, allow people to say hostile things at his rallies,
Wait a minute.
say terrible things in the past, and when he does those things, it makes it much more difficult for the African-Americans who are committed Republicans to do their work. And when you have guests like the gentleman who I'm speaking to now, who acts as if somehow the liberal media has outsmarted the 15% of African Americans who vote for the Republican Party, he treats Black voters like they're stupid rather than taking responsibility for his own
You know what,
candidate's
sir?
behavior
You are
and
part of the
rhetoric.
ugly discourse.
Guys,
Mr. Trump has never associated himself with Ku Klux Klan members. Okay, that's just like saying
gentlemen, Sean Jackson and Jason Johnson, gentlemen, thank you. I know this is a heated topic. We can go on for hours, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. We're going to have to leave it at that, and I appreciate both of your insights, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.